Hey there, fellow wanderers. Tonight we descend beneath the marble arches and echoing forums of ancient Rome, into a world where justice wasn't just blind, it was brutal, strange, and terrifying. Imagine wandering Rome's cobbled streets. The scent of olives and iron lingers in the air. The chatter of markets drifts past marble columns, where togas sweep and sandals slap stone. But behind this elegance lies something darker. Rome was a place where the law was both sacred and savage, where a whisper from an emperor could mean exile or execution. And justice? Sometimes it looked more like performance art soaked in blood than anything we'd recognize today. So before we pass beneath the shadow of the Colosseum, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're drawn to the strange, the forgotten, and the uncomfortably real. Drop a comment below. Where are you listening from? And what time is it as you watch this relic of human cruelty unfold? Now, dim the lights. Let the fan hum like distant drums in a stone amphitheatre. Let's begin. Picture yourself seated outside a Roman amphitheatre, the smell of fresh olives and spiced wine wafting through the air. Today's entertainment? A gladiatorial combat. Except, the combatants are not your everyday trained warriors. Oh no, they are criminals, prisoners of war, or simply unlucky folks who fell out of favour with someone in power. The crowds cheer, completely engaged, bystanders relishing every moment, while you, possibly, feel slightly queasy at the thought of blood being spilled amidst a sea of excitement. After all, how many live battles could you stomach before sympathising with the losing party? And, just when you think it's safe to believe the spectacle is over, another wave of peculiar punishments awaits exploration. The sense of drama extends beyond the arena. Imagine slipping through the streets towards a courtroom. The presiding magistrate is a stern figure flanked by soldiers, a place where every sentence echoes with the sharp weight of Roman justice. Sometimes the sentences were bizarre beyond belief. A soldier gone AWOL would face the wrath of his peers who, ready to serve justice, are prepared to carry out a punishment that might appear more fitting for a misbehaving child. However, with the serious business demeanour they mirthfully joke, well, let's just say desertion wasn't tolerated lightly. Then try to visualise a courtroom setting where the crime is heinous enough to call for the most peculiar of Roman methodologies, drowning the criminal inside a sack with some not-so-friendly beasts. A curious form of justice that puts our life in a box concerns into serious perspective, perhaps adding a cheeky animal companion to your troubles, like a slithery snake or a squawking rooster. You'd really have to consider if the punishment isn't as absurd as the crime itself. It's incredible to think that, amidst all of this, the Roman legal system had structure and, dare we say, a peculiar sort of balance. Even fines played a substantial role, ensuring that the clink of coins could suffice for some misdeeds. Yet, like a suspenseful courtroom drama, the discrepancies between wealth and justice resulted in numerous loopholes, inspiring every Roman with a sense of financial acrobatic. These ideas might make you wonder about your own notion of justice. The idea of exile sounds almost like a vacation from routine, until you imagine the sorrowful journey through endless fields and dusty roads, knowing you'll never lay eyes upon your homeland again. Exile wasn't just departure. It was a forced farewell to everything you once knew. Perhaps you might mull over this in the comfort of your home, grateful that no Roman official suiting your fate could sentence you to such a tragic separation. You'll find, as we wander further back, imaginary lanterns in hand, that history holds fascinating tales, and Roman justice is one enthralling chapter. Historians still argue whether these harsh measures were truly deterrents, or simply macabre entertainment for the masses. It's difficult to argue with the evidence left behind. Stone carvings depicting scenes, monumental laws inscribed for eternity, and writings of senators who themselves intriguingly steered clear of many such punishments, basking in the privilege their status afforded. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. As always, let me know where you're tuning in from and the time over in your corner of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey. Together, we'll delve ever deeper into this world, treading lightly over cobbled pathways to discover the peculiar, the intense, and the astoundingly quaint rules that governed ancient civilizations, where every law and decree could lead to unparalleled consequences. The buzzing excitement of a Roman crowd envelops you as you find yourself standing near the grand amphitheatre. The architectural marvel soars before you, a colossal structure dedicated to the passion Romans had for games, spectacles, and perhaps the darker arts of entertainment. The Colosseum, as you know it now, stands as a testament to this ancient ritual, hosting games where life and death were decided by skill or the schedule of a particularly unlucky day. Today, you're just one of many in the sea of amped-up Romans gathered to witness a spectacle of punishment and judgment. The chatter around you is abuzz with anticipation. Is it the games they're excited about, or simply the unpredictability of the day's lineup? Gladiators fighting to an inevitable conclusion might sometimes tire out the audience attention. Introducing a new twist, criminals and unwanted individuals facing beasts, certainly fired up the crowd like a rustic Roman barbecue. Hey, any chance to replace last night's bad dreams, right? The art of arena spectacle was both a science and a festivity. The events were organized meticulously, ensuring that there was never a dull moment. As you glance around, slaves hurry through the crowds with trays of food and drink. The distant scent of grilled meats mixes with the sweat and fervour of anticipation hovering in the air. The centre of the amphitheatre lies sprawling and grand, the sand ready to soak not the rain but perhaps more visceral elements of the show. Just as you'd expect, the rumble reaches a crescendo as the festivities begin. Games start with smaller displays, contests of skill and combat that warm up the audience. But the main event, the one everyone's buzzing about, is something different. Picture a supposed criminal introduced into that massive circle under the glare of the sun, facing down a beast, perhaps a lion, that has not seen meat in quite a while. It's a clash of fate decisions that, dare we say, teeters between inevitable tragedy and desperate valiance. Historians still discuss whether these punishments held deeper punitive symbolism or were just a form of theatrical combat, meant to entertain a populace hungry for distraction from their everyday lives. But what you might classify as cathartic entertainment presented the paradox of humanity's love for chaos while searching for glimpses of justice under a full sun, and maybe offer lessons machine-wrapped in brutality. Amidst the roar of the crowd, you might imagine yourself taking a deep breath, noting the strange mix of fear and thrill. Once upon a time, beyond just physical punishment, it was a day's drama pulling people in enthralled, engulfed, perhaps entertained, yet all amidst a setting designed not to solely harm the transgressors, but keep lingering doubts about the true humanity underneath the Roman spirit. Meanwhile, back in the padded comfort of our minds, how many times in battlefields of other forms have we stepped in arenas, whether literal or figurative? How often has society knocked away comfort for the promise of freedom, or chaos it seems? We tread many ancient pathstones, seeking connection again with a time when punishing a crime also meant wrestling a nudge with brutal reality. As you stand amongst the animated crowd, sensing the ebb and flow of energy around you, you can't help but ponder the eeriness of it all. You wonder if these spectacles reflect more on the society that craves it, rather than those unfortunate enough to be caught in its brutal clutch. Was it a deterrent, a justice, or merely satisfaction fed through controlled fury? To close a thought, reflect for a brief moment on how big a step humanity took to emerge from such times. How dramatically the lens of justice shifted, thankfully leaving behind dusty arenas echoing only whispers of bygone cheers and lamentations. There's relief in knowing that you might prefer silent empathy, perhaps erring on the side of kindliness. For despite firm purpose, softness resonates in perseverance. And with that lingering touch of distant echoes, we tread forward into further tales, leaving halo-lit Colosseum arches behind to discover more nuanced grabs of Roman justice. The audience outside gleams as the day folds its stories upon golden sands, captured in the eyes of every soul gathered each, looking onward to see another dance with the savage turns of justice. As you leave the grand echoes of the Colosseum behind, your path winds into the legal heart of Rome, where justice wasn't merely served with spectacle, but often draped in deceptively simple acts that masked their brutal nature. Imagine, if you will, attending a peculiar court procession where the breath of punishment brushes against novelty and terror. The punishment in question is called Poena Cullei, an execution method so strange and distasteful you may question if ancient Rome's legal system was essentially a huge plot twist wrapped in curious lawmaking. The Poena Cullei, Latin for punishment of the sack, was reserved for the gravest of sins. Parricide, the act of killing one's own father or close family member. Picture a solemn Roman judge recounting this verdict with the gravity it deserves, setting the stage for a resolution that promises both justice and a touch of macabre creativity. And you, dear listener, might feel a shiver of absurdity creeping in as you grasp the full picture of ancient retribution. Now, imagine the moment after such a verdict is declared. The parricide is tied into a sturdy leather sack, almost comically oversized, resembling something more suitable for holding grains than human life. But this is where the bizarreness truly begins. Additional occupants are introduced to the sack. These are no regular fellow travellers on this final journey, but a collection of randomly unfortunate animals. A rooster, a monkey, a dog, and even a slithery snake. It's a motley crew that would feel more at home in a fever dream or a quirky travelling circus, rather than an ancient Roman death sentence. As you stand, witnessing this curious assembly, you might find it hard to suppress a chuckle at the chaotic notion, only to check yourself, remembering that for the perpetrator this was anything but comical. The tightly bound sack was then thrown into a river, set adrift with its amalgam of frenzied life, creating an amphitheatre of nature in its struggle for survival. It was a dramatic end for the condemned, surrounded by terrified and equally doomed companions. Note that a splash was typically delivered with a dull thud of finality for both the humans and their furry, feathered or scaly partners in misfortune. Historians continue to debate whether the presence of these particular animals held any symbolic significance. Was the monkey a representation of foolishness, the dog a perverse guardian in the afterlife, or the snake a channel for eternal venom? Or was it simply another layer of psychological horror added to an already nightmarish situation? The records remain fragmented, leaving modern scholars in a state of mild puzzlement as they attempt to decode the rationale behind such an elaborate punishment. While you muse upon the potential symbolism, it's difficult to miss the undercurrent of grim humour beneath this serious theme. A Roman punchline cloaked in the harsh fabric of punitive cause. So, while modern justice might prefer quiet contemplation or measured imprisonment, it seems Roman law occasionally leaned towards storytelling on a cosmic scale of bizarre justice. Reflect, if you will, momentarily, on whether such poetic, if chaotic justice served its purpose. Was it purely retribution, a fitting theatrical end for a heinous crime? Or did it serve to remind citizens of Rome's omnipresent legal power? Maybe it was to instill fear of both gods and law through vivid imaginations caught in literal splash pages of quick dissent. As you step away from this odd tapestry of punishment, your mind can't help but wonder to think how humanity evolved past such extravagance in dealing with breaches of the moral fabric. Justice, after all, has poised itself over centuries, ever perplexing yet endlessly adaptable, ensuring public and personal sanity within society. So, as we leave the curious world of Poena Cullei behind, we journey deeper into the heart of Roman traditions, each a puzzle piece contributing to the opulent yet perilous conundrum that Roman society represented. With that thought bouncing lightly across corridors of your imagination, let's prepare for further paragons of justice and find contentment knowing some of history's most peculiar notions are comfortably tucked away in the annals of time. Your journey through the curious world of Roman punishment continues, leading you to the infamous spectacle known as Damnatio ad Bestias, or condemnation to beasts. It's here, in the public arenas and circuses of Rome, that you find one of the era's most terrifying and theatrical penalties, reserved for some of the most infamous crimes, as well as for Christians and other marginalized groups of the time. Imagine with me, if you will, the scene unfolding around you. A peculiar blend of Roman justice and public spectacle, blurring the lines between punishment and entertainment. As you step closer, the arena seems alive, buzzing with anticipation. Today, the stage isn't merely for gladiators or musicians, but features a cast that includes both the condemned and a selection of wild animals, each as menacing as the next. The gates open with a creak, revealing beasts bred and trained, some say, for only these kinds of engagements. Lions, tigers, bears, and occasionally several other creatures of nightmare prowl behind bars, waiting for their ill-fated prey. These events aren't solely about punishment. You start to see how much the societal order anchored on entertainment hinged as the spectacle unravelled. Condemned men and women, thrown into the sand and city of sounds, come face to face with nature's most fearsome predators. A setup almost too surreal, save for the fact it marries the severity of crime and the unleashing of natural fear in one brutal harmony. Picture the populace, gathered in the stands, eyes eagerly fixed on the scene below. They cheer, jeer, and gasp collectively, creating a palpable energy that flows like electricity through the throngs. It becomes an event seeking not just to punish those who broke Roman law, but also to serve up a grandiose display of the consequences of defying societal norms. While engaging with this narrative thread of Damnatio ad Bestias, you can't help but note the stark juxtaposition of wild versus civilization, man versus nature. For the Romans, it wasn't just about retribution. It was a visceral reminder of the power of the state and nature's indomitable strength, adding layers of fear and faith over the hearts of those who watched and waited. Historians grapple with the cycles of this practice's intent and its shifting focus over time. Could it have been purely for the thrill of the spectators, or was it a cleverly crafted lesson to instill awe in the face of the empire's might? This open-ended question reflects how interpretations varied widely in societies both ancient and modern, making it a ripe area for exploration and debate. Some argue it carried an occasional layer of poetic justice, where criminals faced beasts metaphorically representative of their crimes. The passage of time has wrapped these tales in layers of interpretation and legend, threading through the romanticized and, at times, disturbing lenses of people who believed themselves both audience and actor in the play of life. You might marvel at how, despite its inherent brutality, the practice highlighted how deeply into society's core the need for order was ingrained. Yet in their pursuit of discipline, the lines between punishment and barbarism blurred into a severe form of Roman justice revered and feared across the ancient world. As you prepare to withdraw from this austere colosseum of flesh and courage, imagine once again the quiet weight lifted that such forms of punishment remain historical, now juxtaposed back into modernity's semblance of justice, a more quiet, sombre affair, governed by laws rather than crowds, allowing you to breathe easier knowing nowhere here today will you find yourself forsaken into a lion's den, save perhaps in the throes of your own imagination. So, as Damnatio ad Bestias fades into the annals of history, take comfort in knowing our next stop mirrors not the theatre's adrenaline, but something no less foreboding. Imagine yourself, ready, weighted for the solemnity of Roman military discipline, where the fierce austerity offers exploration, revealing legends hardened thick as the stones lining Rome's eternal streets. Let's tread forward together, eager to unearth more echoes resonating amongst the stones of the ancient world's mighty order. As the echoes of roaring beasts fade into the distance, our journey through the curiosities of ancient Roman punishment leads us to another domain of strict discipline, this time within the ranks of Rome's mighty legions. You can almost hear the rhythmic march of sandals on stone as we enter a world where order and consequence walk hand in hand. The Roman military was renowned not just for its prowess on the battlefield, but for its harsh discipline, personified in one of its most severe punishments, the Fustuarium. Imagine standing among a unit of Roman soldiers, clad in armour, faces steeled with resolve, yet carrying an undertone of unease. The reason? A fellow soldier has committed the unthinkable: desertion. His act, seen as the ultimate betrayal, deserves an answer so fearsome it leaves a mark on every heart gathered in judgment. For the Roman military, maintaining order wasn't only crucial, it was vital to the survival of the empire itself. Enter Fustuarium, a disciplinary ritual as dramatic as it was dreadful. Once the dreaded verdict was declared, everyone from the unit gathered, a mix of peers forced into a role they perhaps neither desired to perform nor escape. The offending soldier is led before his comrades, who stand arrayed in a tense circle. Their mission now is both executioner and enforcer of Roman military virtue. In a stark and solemn ceremony, each member was required to play a participatory role in the punishment, armed with a cudgel or stick. As the chorus of absolute silence lofted over the mass of soldiers, the grim act would commence in unison. The tactile thud of wood meeting flesh reverberates, interwoven with an aura of uneasy fulfillment. Fustuarium was not just a method of execution, pain meted out by the hands of your brothers in arms. It was a collective, final judgment delivered by those you once marched beside. Envision the somber faces of soldiers as their duty is fulfilled, and consider the psychological weight that each blow carried. Historians still argue whether these punishments were more about dissuading others from deserting or a reflection of the society's commitment to ruthless discipline. Regardless, they reveal the extents to which Rome went to secure its iron grip on military efficiency and control. Despite the severity rooted in such historical actions, tiny fragments of irony accompany the acknowledgement of human fallibility, humour emerging from the edges of even the fiercest discipline. Picture soldiers exchanging quips, perhaps a soft jest at misfortune's expense, as they attempt to lift the gravity and lean upon camaraderie to relieve the ugliness of their duty. Remarkably, the glare of Fustuarium was not just punitive. It provided a learning curve, stretching years and epochs beyond its initial click into action. It burned a path of discipline into the sands of time, not just for its draconian edge, but as a testament to the lengths humanity might go to ensure the preservation of order. In witnessing the gravity of such scenes, you're invited to reflect on how discipline, while sometimes harsh, was nonetheless indispensable within the matrix of this ancient civilization. These acts served both as a deterrent and stark reminder of the loyalty each soldier pledged to Rome, ensuring that the empire remained whole and its legions unrivaled. As this chapter closes, Rome's reliance on disciplined might underscores the importance of shared purpose and loyalty, a lesson less punitive and more rooted in collective necessity. Tales from this era serve as a juxtaposition to softer modern reflections on duty and order, inviting a grateful nod for the serene semblance of today's measured military discipline. With the echoes of Fustuarium dimming gradually from this page of ancient history, we prepare to embark on another path, a journey into the shadow-laden realm, where crucifixion casts its long, sombre shadow, steeping in a history broadened beyond the realms of the familiar, revealing layers of Rome yet to unfurl. So let's gather our thoughts and step forward, mindful of the narratives waiting, humming faintly upon the horizon like whispers of fate etched upon Rome's horizon. As you leave behind the stern discipline of the Roman military, your steps guide you toward an ancient hill, where another profound and mystifying form of punishment looms large: crucifixion. While most famously associated with the figure of Jesus Christ, crucifixion was widely practiced throughout the Roman Empire. It wasn't a quiet end, it was a powerful statement designed to instill the kind of fear that ripples across the populace like an unsettling shudder. Imagine standing in the blazing sun of ancient Judea, or upon the dusty roads leading out of Rome, where the silhouette of a cross marks the horizon. The symbol, stark and evocative, served as a grim warning to all about the price of defying Rome's authority. Crucifixion was a punishment reserved primarily for the gravest of offences, and for those who posed a significant threat to Roman stability. Rebels, traitors, and those without Roman citizen status. The process was meticulously brutal. A condemned individual would be flogged beforehand, an initial act designed to weaken and humiliate, while also making the subsequent ordeal shorter. It was often soldiers or executioners who carried out these grisly proceedings. Picture a detached efficiency in how they approached their task, moving with calculated precision amid the presence of nervous curiosity from onlookers. Carrying the wooden beam himself, the condemned would be led to the site of execution, heavy with exhaustion and anticipation. It was a journey meant to display powerlessness, an intense struggle against the overwhelming might of state justice that one had dared to defy. There, in full view of the public, the process came to its haunting climax, as they were nailed to the cross arms outstretched, feet bound or nailed, left to hang and contend with both nature and their fate. The sight was a macabre drama of human suffering and state authority. The victim, exposed, struggled against dehydration and asphyxiation, with tendrils of whispers from the crowd rising in shared shock and morbid introspection. For those in the crowd, it was a stark reminder of both an individual's humanity and their mortality under the gigantic shadow of imperial Rome. Throughout history, crucifixion has been recorded beyond its religious connotations. Employed across various provinces, an exhaustive enforcement tool, marking Rome's reach and exemplifying the formidable declaration of its rule. The act served as an example, ensuring that the nucleus of obedience, circled tightly around the empire's expectations and authority. The practice and its implementation were so widespread that historians continue to debate whether any deeper philosophical or socio-political motivations underscored its notorious and pervasive use beyond that of sheer deterrence. Some suggest it was unfiltered terror politics, while others examine the delicate line where systematic justice met deterrence to construct society's ultimate fear factor. Amidst the grim tableau, a peculiar irony emerges. While crucifixion was Rome's hammer of justice, it also later transformed into a symbol of resilience and faith. The tale of Jesus Christ's crucifixion, particularly, has grown from a historic event into a cornerstone narrative of Christian doctrine, signifying hope, redemption, and life triumphing over death. This paradoxical evolution from a tool of torment to a beacon of spiritual awakening is one of history's most compelling transformations. As you stand in the presence of these wooden crosses, framed against a shifting sky, there's a moment to reflect on how far society has journeyed in its contemplation and approach to justice. The modern world, largely removed from the brutal theatrics once commonplace, reframes mercy and order into moral and ethical discussions that ripple through our everyday lives. With the ghostly impression of those enduring symbols gently fading beyond your view, we prepare to leave the crucifix's shadow. Our path next guides us toward quieter, but no less impactful insights, where laws and dues found voice in pecuniary consequences, revealing the intricate weave of legal and economic intellect rounding out the stories of Roman civilization. Let's walk forward, stepping light yet inquisitive, as we unlock the fiscal codings hidden within the empire's ancient legal ledger. The vibrant echoes of Roman life slowly fade away as you tread into the quieter realm of pecuniary punishments, where justice was dispensed with coins rather than corporal sentences. Picture yourself standing amidst the columns of a bustling Roman forum, the air filled with the intermingling voices of senators, merchants, and citizens, accented by the soft jingle of coins exchanging hands. A subtle but constant reminder that law and economy danced in a delicate balance. In this teeming epicenter of Roman society, financial penalties were levied not just for convenience, but as a sophisticated instrument of maintaining order. Picture the wisdom of the 12 tables, where all mundane legalities and complex trade disputes found resolution in monetary measures. An ancient bookkeeping of societal balance. Whether for minor thefts or for infractions of civic duties, fines were omnipresent, serving as a testament to the intricate relationship Rome nurtured between commerce and compliance. Imagine a merchant deftly maneuvering through the dusty lanes of a Roman market, his heart heavy with the knowledge of an impending fine for misweighing goods. Here, justice isn't a violent theatrical act, but a nuanced financial correction, compelling compliance while leaving reputations largely intact. It's a mechanism pioneering early checks and balances, ensuring that discipline lacked none of the empire's calculated artistry. Yet scratch the surface, and the subtle inequalities of this system unfold. For those enveloped in wealth, fines could seem little more than a minor annoyance absorbed within the comforts of affluence. Historians still argue about this inequity permeating Roman law, and whether it allowed privilege to gracefully sidestep more substantial repercussions. This disparity prompts contemporary echoes in our discussions of equity, nudging at concepts of justice and accessibility that stretch across eras. However, even amidst this disparity, the realm of pecuniary penalties brimmed with peculiarities. Fines were imposed not only for grave misdeeds, but extended into the realms of the whimsical and ceremonial mishaps. You can almost laugh imagining the aftermath of a civic procession disrupted by untamed mules, where their owner might face not angry mobs, but a lighter purse. Even incidents as banal as failing to maintain a pristine facade for one's residence carried their financial toll, a quirky yet earnest embodiment of law meeting life in everyday Rome. The pragmatic elegance of this financial indemnification reflects a governance style suited to Rome's vast territories. Administratively, fines offered Rome a pliable way to govern its numerous provinces, disimplishing the reach of Roman power through economic rather than physical might. The spread of such measures softened the presence of imperial oversight, deftly integrating its rule into the daily hum of life's transactions. Reflect for a moment on how this approach laid the groundwork for future justice models, embedding in many cultures the notion that monetary penalties could enforce societal order effectively. In Rome's coins, one might glimpse the whispering spectres of modern finance-driven jurisprudence, where fiscal penalties mediate against legal infringements, upholding an economy's balance alongside its citizenry's well-being. As dusk settles gently across the forum, the clang of coins fades, replaced by softer, introspective notes. You prepare now to leave behind the jostle of marketplaces and turn towards the solitary path of exile, a punishment, eschewing the financial for the deeply personal, carrying with it echoes of loss and division. Step lightly as we venture into this chapter, unearthing the emotional and societal weight of banishment, a narrative etched into the very stones of Roman justice. Leaving behind the hum of commerce in the bustling Roman forum, you step onto a path of solitude and isolation, venturing into the world of exile, a punishment less tangible than coins, but burdened with the weight of profound separation. Exile, or Exilium, called upon a different kind of justice, where the essence of punishment was wrapped in the ache of distance and the erosion of one's connection to home and nation. As you stand at the threshold of this narrative, imagine the harsh reality faced by those sentenced to this fate. Banished from Rome, the person was thrust into a journey that spelled both a physical and emotional departure from their life's axis. For an empire as grand and centralized as Rome, exile served as a tool of control, a means to weed out those perceived as threats, without the spectacle of public execution or the messiness of local imprisonment. The crime leading to such a fate varied, ranging from political dissidence and treason to serious crimes that merited removal. Imagine a senator whose ambitions or affiliations deemed too radical, or a writer whose pen probed too sharply into the political marrow of society. Forced to leave behind the familiar embrace of Rome's vibrant life, its bustling streets, its temples, and its pulsating public forums, the exiled was repelled overseas, or into the fringes of distant territories. Picture the solemn departure, a lone figure walking a road unknown. The rustle of leaves mingles with the whisper of the wind, carrying tales from distant lands, a reminder of the harshness melting into the horizon. As the city of Rome fades into the backdrop, a mix of apprehension and anticipation lingers, perhaps queried by those remaining behind. Would fortunes arise elsewhere, or would the heartache shadow every found new horizon? Historians contemplate the psychological impact of such exile. One's crime echoed in the silent chasm of solitude, where banishment stripped belonging and rootedness. Was exile more humane, or was it as wounding as public execution, leaving a soul adrift in memories and acreages unknown? The debate endures, a reflection on the layers of penal philosophy. During an era when community and identity closely intertwined, exile struck at an individual's core. The banished carried not just the challenge of survival, but also the intrinsic torment of severed bonds. Family ties, friendships, and livelihoods, all truncated with the magistrate's decree, marking a sentence steeped in melancholy. From this chrysalis of punishment, the dynamics of power further unfurled. For some high-profile individuals, exile entailed temporariness, serving more as a political instrument, allowing a softer landing, with whispers of potential return on favourable winds. The idea of restorative justice gleamed in cheerful recounts of possible return tickets, a parole written in the stars. Indeed, the legacy of Roman exile, though softened through poetic yarns, leaves glimpses of its harshness lingering within historical thought. Even today, parallels emerge where modern forms of exile manifest in social alienation and banishment, induced isolation in exile like analogues within communities, mirroring reverberations of ancient calls from Rome's domains. As the road twists through shadows cast long by the setting sun, we prepare to leave the realm of exile behind, carrying insights of justice met through sorrow distance. Ahead, the echoes of Rome's powerful elite await, the Praetorian Guards, a formidable force carrying the emperor's favour and the empire's might, charting yet another enticing route through the annals of ancient justice. Let us step purposefully, ready to uncover the blurred boundaries of authority, protection and power that coloured the lives within the empire's guard. The twilight of exile dims as you approach the formidable presence of the Praetorian Guards, Rome's elite military unit, whose role as imperial bodyguards and power brokers left an indelible mark on the justice system. Imagine the clink of armour and the echo of disciplined footsteps as you walk among them, a silent testament to the mingling of might and politics in the empire's wide-reaching embrace. The Praetorian Guards were no ordinary soldiers. Drawn from the best of the legions, they were handpicked for their prowess, loyalty, and capacity to wield Rome's authority. Standing in their presence, you can almost feel the weight of responsibility they bore, not just protectors of the emperor, but enforcers of his justice. Their role extended beyond mere guardianship. They were at the heart of Rome's political theatre, orchestrating dramatic turns in power that could shift the empire's core. You can picture them stationed at the emperor's side, not just as silent sentinels in glittering armour, but as active participants in the judicial narrative. It was they who enforced decisions, quelled rebellion, and sometimes, rumour has it, whispered into the emperor's ear about matters both precarious and pivotal. The line between their duty and ambition blurred, crafting them into potent political players whose influence coursed through the empire like well-fortified veins. The Praetorian Guard's historical role as arbiters of authority often bordered on the surreal. They were pivotal in maintaining order, yet their very presence could incite fear. During moments of political upheaval or imperial transition, they became the kingmakers of Rome, with allegiances in constant flux as emperors rose and fell under their watchful glint. Imagine standing amid thickened political tension, where an emperor's life and by extension the tone of Roman justice hung by a thread, cut or tied by Praetorian hands. Historians still argue about the extent of their influence versus their loyalty, analysing whether their actions perpetuated justice or veered into the realms of self-preserving intrigue. Were they the protectors of imperial power, or did their ambitions betray a mercenary nature that shaped Rome's fate? This enduring debate echoes through annals, bringing a shadow of mystery to their disciplined front. Despite their primary task of protection, they were also agents of enforcement when Roman law demanded. Imagine offenders brought forward, their fates enforced at the hands of these guardians. While justice in Rome carried varied faces, when meted out by the Praetorians, it held a weighted severity, leaving little room for nuance or mercy, their actions carrying the gravitas of imperial decree. Yet amid their daunting authority, beneath the polished armour, one might wonder if humour ever peeked between layers of solemnity, perhaps levity hidden amid duties weighed by duty rather than eloquence. For even the mightiest, trivial banter might find its way through the ranks, a weaponized camaraderie forged through shared experience and acclaimed battles. Perhaps chuckles at a mishap during grueling drills, or harmless jests woven through high-rank corridors as they pursued their protect and conquer mission, being crucibles of both history and humour. When the Praetorian Guards themselves became a political instrument, they showcased the thin veil between justice served and power manipulated. Their eventual disbandment by Emperor Constantine displayed an inevitable reckoning, a testament to their evolutionary footprint, an acknowledgement that even the mightiest must bend before the wheel of change. As the muffled steps of the Praetorian echoes fade away, we leave behind the shadows of palace intrigue and political machinations, still carried by the wind's subtle whisper. Our path now veers into the realm of public shaming, a domain where justice was wielded openly, mingling judgment with exposure, casting its net within Rome's most social spaces. Step gently as we delve into the public theatre of consequences where shame, transformed into punishment, wove its own tale of Roman justice. As we step away from the imposing shadows of the Praetorian Guards, our journey toward the subtler yet no less impactful realms of Roman punishment leads us to the spectacle of public humiliation. Here, justice was as much about social standing and reputation as it was about retribution. One's crimes exposed to the glaring sun of public scrutiny with the intention of reform, deterrence, and societal reinforcement. Public shaming in ancient Rome retained an air of theatricality reminiscent of the city's penchant for spectacle. Imagine a bustling forum or a crowded marketplace where these punishments took place. A lively setting meant for more than just transactions of goods, but also for judgments exchanged in the court of public opinion. As an observer, you find yourself amidst a crowd gathered not just for commerce, but curiously drawn to the unfolding drama of justice. Public humiliation acted both as punishment and as a tool of deterrence, laying bare the offender's transgressions for all eyes to see. Picture the convicted, sentenced to stand on display with a placard declaring their crime. Here, public opinion judged them as much as did the magistrate's decree. For someone in the thrall of the crowd's jeers, the sting wasn't just in the verdict, but in the judgment etched permanently in whispered reputations carried home. Consider the plight, for instance, of a swindler whose offence might lead him to be paraded through the streets, chained or in stocks. a living tableau of vice exposed for communal reflection. The Romans revelled in a sensory justice where every citizen could participate in reinforcing social norms. It served both as a vivid reminder of society's boundaries and as a mechanism for communal involvement in expressing collective disapproval. Historians often discuss whether the public humiliation fit the purpose of genuine reform, or if it served more as a transient balm, concealing deeper social hierarchies and biases. This open debate remains, as remnants of graffiti on old walls and whispers of personal letters suggest, a layered response to this form of justice, sometimes resented, sometimes celebrated, and occasionally jested at over wine-filled gathering. Within these spectacles of shame lay a quirkiness unique to Rome's legal landscape. Imagine, if you will, small yet impactful moments when a freed gladiator, briefly popular for his prowess, found himself back in the society's eyes for debt-shaming. Such ironies befell many, reminding Rome of the fleeting nature of fame and fortune. A somewhat poetic justice played by societal watchmen guarding their invisible scales. A curious observer might chuckle at the occasional strange encounter interwoven within displays of justice. Perhaps it would be a tale of a mischievous baker whose short-witted roles led him into stocks, now ridiculed by the very customers he once fooled. In this grand narrative, humour slices gently through the air, carving out shared laughter from collective outrage. Beyond visible punishments, public shaming cut deeper, tangling with personal identity and socio-political mobility. Social standing was meticulously curated through honour and reputation, meaning public disgrace could be as devastating as exile. One's house might grow painful in its familiarity, turned sour by the scorn of neighbours gathered at twilight, where shared narratives spanned overshadowed boundaries. The Roman penchant for public justice continued through history, echoing even in contemporary society's subtle shades. While stockades vanished, the taste for watching public reckoning transforms, through media's lens, carefully observed and occasionally brimming with sympathy or dramatic delight. As you drift away from this frenzied yet enlightening scene, we turn our steps towards the darkened corridors of interrogation, where extracting truth bore strange methodologies, sometimes veering into sinister realms. Let us tread softly as we venture undaunted into the intimate, often grim exploration of truth-seeking devices in a Rome where knowledge, like life, was fiercely pursued and vigorously preserved. As the echoes of public shaming dissipate, you step further into the shadowy halls of Roman justice, where the quest for truth often veered into the unsettling domain of interrogation and its various methods. Here, amid dim corridors and echoing chambers, what arises is a narrative steeped in both intrigue and trepidation, the relentless pursuit of confession, where the line between truth and coercion blurred as skillfully as the stroke of a Roman mosaic artist. Interrogation in ancient Rome was not simply about asking questions. It was an ordeal designed to extract truths through methods that probed both mind and body. Imagine the setting, a shadowed room, an atmosphere thick with tension, and the accused standing before a stern magistrate whose role involved not just persuasion but force when necessary. Welcome to a world where the certainties of law intermingled with suspicion, navigating through reason held firm in the clutch of doubt. Picture yourself watching from a darkened corner as the Roman justice system employs a mix of intimidation and cunning dialogue. A skilled interrogator might begin with reasoned questions, gauging reactions with the practiced eye of a person who knows that truth often hides in plain listen, veiled by nervousness or social mask. Yet, when words alone would not compel confession, more formidable measures waited in relay part of an arsenal both feared and storied within the stone walls. For serious crimes, especially those involving betrayal or conspiracy, the methods amplified. It wasn't unheard of for physical discomfort to be part of the process. Though grotesque examples abound in law, Roman law at times sanctioned flogging or sleeplessness to break down resistance, pushing the accused to their breaking point where truth or survival might crack open, spilling needed revelation. Historians still argue whether such methods were justified or effective. Was truth discovered or merely pain-induced admission? The resulting discourse often skews toward ethical contemplations, questioning Rome's balance of justice with compassion. This open debate revitalizes the examination of coercion's place within legal proceedings, prompting reflections that echo even through current corridors of power and influence. Yet, not all stories of Roman interrogation delve into darkness. Amidst this intensity lay strange rituals, like those surrounding the ingestion of truth-prompting potions, ostensibly aiding in relaxing the spirit into veracity. However, the outcomes often skewed into comprised versions of the truth swirling within the soporific essence. Such eclectic approaches mirrored the Romans' imaginative depth, a composite reflection of their dedication to unraveling secrets by playing to both mysticism and logic. In some humorous instances, lesser disagreements or petty squabbles found resolution through what we might deem unconventional practices today. Perhaps a mischievous cohort might trick an overeager youth into imbibing too much wine, loosening tongues and inhibitions, as laughter wove morning fog amidst confessed transgressions. This blend of earnestness and levity balanced Roman sensibilities uniquely, a culture adept at juxtaposing solemnity with mirth. Interrogations often became reluctant theatre, where piercing questions coaxed carefully guarded truths, and the shadows bore witness to emotional exchanges, confessions delivered under duress, or craftily extracted by wit polished amidst tensions held taut as a gladiator's fighting stance. The assembled layers reflected Rome's essence, a civilization purveying intricate spins woven into its aesthetics and severity alike. Leaving these shadowy rooms behind, consider how the Romans' fascination with truth and method influenced their legacy. It served as a blueprint juxtaposed against modern interrogative methods, leaving the timeless murmur of persistent human nature, veiled but palpable within our striving for clear, unequivocal truths. As our journey into Roman justice continues, the narrative thread now meanders towards the foundational stones, the 12 tables, where Rome's legal constructs first found form amid chiseled declarations etched for eternity. Prepare to step forward onto the cobbled path where the birthplace of Roman law casts its influential veils upon the governance of ancient and modern realms alike. Let us proceed, eager to unfold the script of history where the law's genesis lies, singing its resonant anthem through stone, prose, and timeless conviction. Leaving behind the shadowy corridors of interrogation, we step out into the metaphorical sunlight, where the backbone of Roman legality was born. Here, engraved in the very fabric of Roman society, stand the 12 tables, a symbolic and literal foundation upon which countless legal systems would eventually build. As you walk amidst the echoes of chiseled stone, these ancient tablets narrate a story of order, justice, and civilization's evolving complexity. Picture yourself journeying back to around 450 BC, amid a growing Rome where the need for a codified legal system became undeniable. It was a time when class tensions between patricians and plebeians threatened instability, and the 12 tables emerged as a beacon of equality, steel points crafting fairness across Roman society. Carved onto bronze tablets, they embodied an early glimpse of structured justice, designed to unify Rome under a single banner of laws accessible and known to all. As you stand before these metaphorical tablets in your imagination, it becomes clear how revolutionary this initiative was. The 12 tables covered various aspects of daily life, from private rights and family law to procedures for trials and regulations to protect the sacred bond of marriage. They offered a deterrent against the arbitrariness that often characterized unwritten and inaccessible laws, showcasing the Romans' earnest desire for order amidst societal flux. The tables addressed concrete concerns: property rights, inheritance laws, and regulations that affected every citizen irrespective of status. Imagine a plebeian farmer whose land dispute might find resolution outlined succinctly within these laws, providing not just adjudication, but also a glimpse into Rome's commitment to defining societal norms. The essence of these regulations lay in their applicability, offering constituents a reassurance that justice wasn't the privilege of the elite, but a common pillar underscoring the Republic's ethos. Although these laws provided foundational support, historians continue to debate their lasting impact on social and class dynamics. Did the 12 tables truly level the playing field? Or did they simply mask the inherent inequalities within the system? This scholarly debate echoes across ages, weaving discussions on the true efficacy of written law as a tool for societal equity, questions that transcend history and remain relevant in legal discourse today. Among their legal prescriptions, peculiarities abound, like quirky decrees about forbidden tree branch overreach or strict ramifications for nighttime thievery. The elements display Rome's intricate fascination with codifying the mundane, reflecting a society meticulous in its efforts to imbue everyday occurrences with order through law. The 12 Tables also fostered an environment where legal experts, magistrates, and jurisconsults would thrive, lending their wisdom to interpret and apply these early edicts to an ever-expanding array of circumstances. Imagine being part of this tradition, where thinkers and practitioners alike crafted narratives within Rome's legal framework, balancing the rhythm of order with the melody of human nature, captured, debated, and preserved for future generations. Think of the vibrant discussions blossoming in forums, cheeky debates where citizens, amused by legal minutiae, banter about the infractions like a husband's perceived trickery requiring solemn atonement. Even in law's most serious garb, the wry humour of Roman society occasionally peeked through, a testament to a culture that balanced solemn codification with bursts of spirited interjection. Moving forward from these foundations, consider how the 12 Tables, unmarred by time's erosion, continue to sing an influential anthem within legal constructs past and present, whispers of a past that laid the groundwork for modern legal systems. Their influence can be seen within codified laws today, cultivated in the fertile field where the idea of transparent justice and societal balance took root. As you take leave of the 12 Tables, our path now unfolds toward the tactile reality of corporal punishment, a chapter imbued not in the abstract or in inscription, but in physicality. Here, the embodiment of punishment finds its narrative as we explore lashes meted out not on parchment, but on flesh. Let us step gently into the vivid world where justice was not whispered, but carried the sharp sting of discipline, ruled by rod and law's swift execution. Prepare to delve into tales of punitive measures that were as much a part of Rome's story as law's inception itself, sharp, with shades of remorse and reform. As you leave behind the foundational echoes of the 12 Tables, your journey into the depths of Roman justice leads you into the realm of corporal punishment, a domain where the consequences of transgressions were directly and viscerally experienced. In this world, the abstract notions of right and wrong took on tangible forms, impacting bodies and leaving behind marks not just on flesh, but in history's narrative as well. Imagine standing amidst a Roman square where law wasn't just understood through words carved in stone, but through the crack of leather against skin. Flogging, among other forms of corporal punishment, served as stark reminders of the Roman emphasis on discipline, a society shaped both by its virtues and by the iron fist it used to safeguard them. Among the crack of lashes, an indelible narrative unfolds, the tale of physical punishment administered as both a deterrent and a tool for societal correction. Picture the convicted, their sentence enacted in broad daylight, serving as an eerie testament to the power wielded by Rome to maintain order and obedience. These punishments, held central to the Roman ethos, ensured that justice wasn't a distant notion, but one in which tangible accountability was paramount. Such punishments were meted not only to enforce conformity to laws, but also to maintain discipline across tiers of Roman order. In the military, flogging or beatings were not uncommon, a harsh reality faced by soldiers who transgressed. Imagine a legion where discipline kept every soldier in line, their routine nurtured by an omnipresent reminder of consequences that teetered past mere reprimand. Historians reflect on whether these actions forged stronger societal bonds or merely instilled fear. While some argue that corporal punishment secured obedience and unity, others contend that it perpetuated a culture of fear, in turn potentially breeding resentment. This debate over punishment's role persists, asking difficult questions about the balance between rigorous enforcement and the nurturing of societal morality. Amidst this harsh spectrum emerged smaller moments where humour tiptoed through unrelenting severity. Perhaps a soldier, caught in mischief, jests with camaraderie in the face of impending chastisement, or civilians sharing chuckles about trivial offences, leading to an unexpected public lashing. These moments of light-hearted reprieve juxtaposed against the dark backdrop of punishment reflected Roman society's nuanced approach toward discipline. But not all corporal punishment was severe. Some aimed simply to correct, hanging amicably in the public squares like theatre. Picture neighbours discussing a young prankster's misdeed leading him to bear the rod, a sort of softened spectacle, blending headshakes with gentle amusement among neighbours. Rome's society had ebb and flow, a rich tapestry weaving severity with an occasional embroidered levity yarned by folly. As corporal punishment carved its lines into the chronicles of Roman life, parallels emerge with today's examination of physical punishment. The Roman world, in its discipline's exacting rigour, illuminated the complexity of human behaviour and the intricate matrix where deterrence and education intersect. The echoes of these lessons resonate into contemporary discussions, enriching our understanding of discipline's role within societal structure. Walking away from these vivid scenes of correction, your thoughts might linger on how these practices influenced future generations, leaving legal imprints amidst flowering societies. Now, as the sun casts long shadows over the granite expanse of Roman squares, we prepare to journey into a smaller, more focused expression of corporal punishment, to a realm where the art of flogging took centre stage, offering a deeper delve into its harsh choreography crafted through history's lens. Step forward with me, navigating carefully within narratives brimming with the sound of whips and the hum of Rome's relentless embrace of discipline entwined with fate. Stepping forward from the broader tableau of corporal punishment, you approach the nuanced realm where flogging, one of the most vivid expressions of Roman discipline, awaits exploration. In this arena, the whip became both a symbol of chastisement and a tool wielded with precision, leaving its mark not just on skin, but on the chronicles of Roman life that emphasized order through tangible means. Imagine the scene set in the confines of a Roman courtyard, where the crack of leather both chilled the air and echoed through the minds of spectators. Flogging was not merely a punishment, it was a performance of justice, acted out under the watchful eyes of Rome's populace. The lashes delivered, harsh and rhythmic, served as unspoken promises of the consequences of stepping beyond society's bounds. The discipline inherent in flogging was meticulously administered as part of military life, reflecting Rome's unwavering expectation of loyalty and order among its ranks. Picture a legionary camp, where whispers of anticipation rose among soldiers, some standing firm in line, aware that any lapse might invite punishment swift and certain. The whip wasn't just an instrument. It was a reminder that even a moment's dereliction could bear consequences choreographed in pain. For those punished, the experience was often as much about the mental ordeal as it was about the physical. Standing exposed to both the elements and the judgment of peers, the lash struck at a personal level, instilling discipline through fear and acknowledgement of civic duty. Imagine the quiet tension, a crowd gathered in silent testimony to Rome's strict adherence to order. A scene where each lash became a lesson, illustrated in unforgiving detail. Historians still debate whether flogging was a necessary deterrent or an excessive mark of authority, reflecting an enduring tension between discipline and cruelty that haunts interpretations today. The repetitive motion of the whip carried with it questions: had it transcended punishment into spectacle, veiling society's delight in control under the guise of justice? Yet amid this gravitas emerged scenarios coloured with human nuance, where sometimes unintended humour interplayed against the backdrop of discipline. Perhaps stories circulated of a guard's mishap, granted tongue-in-cheek embellishments as comrades jested softly in absentia. This occasional levity was Rome's way of embedding humanity into the otherwise severe rites of order, providing whispered relief amidst the tension. In civilian life, public displays of flogging carried their peculiar paradox. A vendor found guilty of dishonest wares, or a baker whose goods weighed cheatingly light, experienced both punishment and pageantry, as citizens murmured in the spaces between chastisement and curious interest. Here justice collided with theatre, parading sin and atonement before an audience versed in the subtle narratives of Roman life. Amid these juxtaposed scenes, contemplate how flogging, ensconced within layers of Roman law, influenced future approaches to punishment. Its resonance whispers through time, captured within reforms that question the efficacy and humanity of corporal penalties today. In observing the legacy of Rome's disciplinary arts, you glimpse reflections upon restraint and compassion that tint modern jurisprudence with shadows of introspection. The sun dips lower now, gilding your path as you step from these historical chronicles. We prepare to traverse into a slightly odder canvas, a world where peculiar punishments unfold, reflecting Rome's ingenious and sometimes strange approach toward justice. Envision stepping alongside stories both curious and bizarre, where justice wasn't simply enforced, but painted with a brush dipped in eccentricity. Let's venture carefully forward, bearing witness to the quirky and unexplored edges of punishment within Rome's intricate social mosaic. Leaving behind the intense echoes of flogging, your journey now takes you to the peculiar and often whimsical corners of Roman punishment. Here, justice at times wore a mask imbued with creativity, where societal discipline not only adhered to rules, but also flirted with the eccentric boundaries of human ingenuity. Prepare to tread into the strange yet fascinating tapestry of Roman jurisprudence, where the unusual often govern norms. Imagine wandering through the lively streets and marketplaces, where beneath the orderly facade of daily life lurked the whimsical hand of Roman judges and lawmakers. They crafted punishments that could seem bizarre by modern standards, yet served as reminders of the ever-inventive spirit of defining order in a sprawling empire. At times, these punishments were both corrective and cautionary tales wrapped into a single, unusual narrative. Consider the curious punishments meted out for petty crimes and social transgressions, where subtlety and satire might eclipse the severity usually associated with more traditional forms of penalty. Picture a town where a wayward debtor might find themselves facing not exile or imprisonment, but rather a day parading the streets wearing a distinctly impractical or embarrassing ensemble. Such punishments were as much for the edification of the guilty as they were for the amusement of onlookers, crafting moments of laughter amid law's stern prose. Among the stranger sanctions were those involving animals, where acts of misconduct melded into amusingly inventive fables. Take, for instance, the tale of an individual punished by being yoked with a donkey, subject to meandering through town in a curious liaison of man and beast. Historians speculate whether such punishments carried deeper symbolism or merely indulged society's penchant for bewildering revelry. Even so, these stories reflect the layers of Roman life, where justice wasn't simply administered but orchestrated with flair. Through these peculiarities, scholars often debate whether the intentions behind such unconventional punishments stemmed from a genuine philosophical stance or leaned more toward entertainment. Were they crafted purely to instill indulgent fear, or did the humour offer a release valve that facilitated tolerance and communal acceptance? Such bewilderments add yet another dimension to the debate about the role of justice within Rome's complex social structures, prompting curious contemplation. Yet amidst this amusement, ordinary citizens deftly navigated rules and consequences by wielding their own intrinsic wit. Think of ways public figures or local personalities employed cleverness to sidestep potential chastisements, balancing carefully on the line dividing compliance and impropriety. Within these interactions, dialogue between the judicial and the societal becomes a dance, radiating through Rome's venturesome culture. The subtle humour accompanying these punishments provided moments of levity between the cracks of formal discipline. You might picture watching townsfolk exchanging cheeky smiles over a culprit sentenced to carry hefty sacks of sand for a miscalculated deed. Amid solemnity, Rome offered the very human touch of laughter, punishments carried through exaggerated themes reflecting upon foibles embraced by all. These curious approaches invite reflections upon justice's flexible nature, examining how the tales of antiquity influence modern perspectives. Many subtle traces of inventive law make their way into contemporary systems, where at times quirky or rehabilitative sentences replace dour conventional ones, seeking reform over retribution within this eternal dance of societal balance. With peculiar punishments behind you, our journey continues into the depths of Roman labour-based penalties, where justice took physical form through toil and exertion. Let us move forward into the narratives where forced labour and galley slavery intersect, exploring the laborious journey of those who found their sentences tangled within oar and anchor. Step keenly with me, as legends of resilience and hardship await discovery amid worn tools and salt-kissed shores of this ancient civilization. Stepping away from the whimsy of peculiar punishments, you find yourself entering the rigorous world of forced labour and galley slavery, a realm where punishment manifested in tireless exertion and the relentless rhythm of oars against the open sea. This is a world where justice was determined not by confinement within prison walls, but by binding hands to work that supported the very framework of Roman power and ambition. Imagine the scene shifting to the expansive Roman docks, where the salty breeze mingles with cries of merchants and sailors. Here, your attention is drawn to the large vessels lined along the harbour. These ships weren't merely crafted for trade or defence. They represented a floating embodiment of Roman justice. Those convicted of serious crimes might find themselves facing an unforgiving sentence, a place at the oars within a Roman galley, where punishment fused with the arduous task of empire building. Forced labour as punishment wasn't reserved only for seafaring assignments. Across Rome's vast territories, labour camps sprang up, employing those whose transgressions relegated them to hard labour. Picture prisoners toiling under the harsh sun in quarries and mines, hewing stone for ambitious constructions, or working the land in the barren outskirts of the Roman frontier. The echoes of their exertions intertwined with the empire's progress and expansion. For galley slaves, life on board was grueling, with each stroke of the oar tugging them further from the freedom they once knew. Imagine being shackled alongside fellow perpetrators or war captives, bodies swaying rhythmically yet unnaturally to the beat of a taskmaster's drum. The constant pull against the oar morphed into a penance served upon the endless horizon. Justice found itself woven into the very fabric of the empire's naval prowess, through the forced labour of those who propelled it. Historians still discuss whether these punishments served as effective deterrents or merely highlighted the embodiment of human endurance amidst constraint. In many cases, labour proved not just a sentence, but a frequent return ticket back into the societal fold, providing a pathway, if demanding, toward redemption by fulfilling the needs of a burgeoning empire through designated service. Incorporated into this penal system was also the humbling nuance of humility, where humour occasionally found its way. Imagine men sharing tales among rowing shifts, quipping about their life at sea. Perhaps an impromptu contest of wit or inventiveness during lulls, weaving drollery through strenuous undertakings. For enslaved labourers, humour might be a rare compass levity found in aligning mismatched rows, or slight enjoyment gleaned from the antics of taskmasters temporarily caught in their own webs. In the relief moments between hard tasks, camaraderie forms a testament not just to endurance, but to shared humanity threading through each wrist's pull amid the Roman sun's warmish glare. Beyond physical toil, the galley's narrative carried echoes into the cultural discourse. Beyond Stoke and Sluice, Rome's keen reach even touched upon shared myths embedded within seafarer tales and allegories, propelling itself through both literal waters and metaphorical seas of understanding. These tales, albeit often grim but occasionally buoyant, spoke to a broader human condition navigating discipline, resilience, and the essence of free spirit, held temporarily in chains. Leaving these shores now, your thoughts linger upon how such labour-centric punishments melded with the pursuits of empire and industry, a dual role mirroring infrastructure through sweat equity and sweat penalty alike. Moving forward, ponder the disparity in justice meted out by fiscal transactions, contrasting with those labouring fiercely toward a delayed freedom within the rhythmic expanse of earthly duty. As the sea mist rolls away under the gentle nudge of a cooling breeze, let us turn our gaze toward the fates of Rome's elite, where justice often held a different script. Embrace the contrasting panorama of punishments reserved not just for the poor or rebellious, but for those wealthy enough to write their epilogues within the gilded chapters of Rome's aristocracy. Prepare to step keenly into the domain where power, privilege, and punishment met in a dance both delicate and decisive. As the tide of labour and toil recedes, your journey through the annals of Roman justice carries you into the opulent world of the elite, where the lines of punishment and privilege softly blur. A world where power and wealth entwine with law in the intricate dance of influence and consequence. Here, amid frescoed villas and marble corridors, you find a Rome where justice came served on the gold plate of status, offering a contrasting narrative to the severe punishments laid upon the lesser classes. Imagine strolling through the corridors of a grand villa, where the rich aroma of incense coalesces with the subtle rustling silks of Roman aristocracy. For those of noble birth or exceptional wealth, the courts often afforded leniencies cloaked in the guise of fines or political detours. Menial inconveniences for the affluent, but devastating burdens for the less fortunate. This disparity in justice paints a tapestry of contrasting experiences, coloured by the sheen of denarii and the slabs of social leverage. For the wealthy, who perhaps dabbled in malfeasance or notoriety, punishment frequently translated into facile financial penalties, penned in the ledger more as numbers than justice's hand. Picture a patrician caught in scandal, perhaps facing exile to a luxurious country estate, rather soothing exile, compared to the harsher livelihoods relegated offshore to Rome's fringes. Thus, the notion of punishment found itself not prescribed by prescribed order, but rather calibrated to an intriguing blend of influence and negation. Imagine, too, the social theatre within senatorial circles. where whispered alliances or cunning negotiations facilitated a deflection of blame or a deft sweep of minor penalties. The spectacle, akin to a game of chess, showcased deft coordination, cunning artistry set equally in wit and power, governing the fate of influential figures. Their chances of clipping consequence were shaded by networks of favour within the empire's ambit, a delicate balance recognised by all, whispered beneath atrium arches. Historians draw on these societal inequities to query whether these sparse bouts of justice reveal a pragmatic facet of governance or a problematic deviation from egalitarian law. This engagement evokes perennial reflection across time. Does affluence shift the scales unjustly? The discourse remains vivid with debate, highlighting narratives of power, secrecy, and tactical foresight. Yet, amidst the serious disputes of aristocratic justice, blooms moments of satirical reprieve. You might imagine a young heir penalised for a frivolous affair, not by obligation, but by being sent to manage rustic estates, or pacifying temper in the realm of agrarian oversight. Their absent cries mingling with droll sighs of seasoned stewards, or echoes of comic seethe, murmured beneath vineyard rows, capturing both warm humour and critiques of noble indulgence. Within familial circles, justice turned softly conspiratorial. Families shielded kin, opting for internal mediation to escape public notice or scandal. A testament to how societal prestige often weighed heavier than legal edicts. Interlaced in complex dynamics maintaining the visage of prestige and propriety, this paradox of punishment and power among Rome's elite intrigued visionaries, who later sought justice reform aiming more equitable consequences, distancing Rome from opulent disparities in legal remedies. The tale reveals enduring questions, sheltering in the corridors of wealth about to what end privilege may shield. Transparency, a consideration ever present in contemporary dialogue on law's impartiality. As marbled walls fade into twilight's embrace, let their tale of selective justice carry you gently forth. From wealth-laden halls our path turns toward an unsettling chapter, where bloodkin and coin intertwine within the shadows of justice's transactions. Prepare to step tentatively into the dusk of blood taxes, where restitution was counted not just in coin, but in lifeblood's cadence-binding flesh. With currency amidst the intriguing annals of Roman heritages, a faint shimmer of marbled opulence fades, as your path now leads you into the shadows, where justice intersects with blood. A domain where restitution was reckoned not just in coin, but in the visceral currency of flesh and kin. Here, amid the echoes of ancient markets and familial obligations, lies the concept of blood taxes, a haunting intersection of life, debt, and reparation under the ever-watchful eyes of Roman law. Imagine venturing into the bustling agora, where tradesmen barter their wares, magistrates deliberate judgments, and the hum of daily life mingles with solemn undertones of duty and restitution. In this world, the currency of justice took on a form both monetary and profoundly personal, where compensation for wrongs committed, especially those involving loss of life, was steeped in a system known as blood money. The premise of blood taxes rested upon the notion that certain crimes, particularly those resulting in wrongful death or grievous injury, could be tempered, not by the swing of a sword, but through negotiated reparations. Imagine a family, burdened with the death of a loved one, seeking redress through a structured exchange of wealth from the offender. This transaction served dual purposes: acknowledging the wrong while attempting to heal the societal fabric disrupted by violence. Yet, such arrangements were fraught with complexities. Imagine the negotiations, taking place perhaps in a shaded alcove or within the echoing halls of Roman courts, a delicate balancing act of valuation, where life's worth was debated and settled upon with a weight that transcends material wealth. The act of quantifying life in denarii reflects the tug of institutional pragmatism and moral quandary that continues to ripple through philosophical discourse. Historians continue to argue about the ethical implications. Did blood money truly serve justice, or did it simply allow wealthy perpetrators an avenue to eschew more severe repercussions? The discourse suggests an enduring tension between reparation and retribution, a dialogue that echoes through ages both ancient and modern, questioning whether such financial settlements uphold justice or dilute its essence. Within the stirring shadows of these transactions, moments arise where humour and irony intersperse with gravity. Picture a nobleman slyly bargaining reparations under the critical gaze of adversaries, endeavouring to part with as little as possible. a spectacle unto itself within the theatre of societal politics. Such negotiations often drew not only familial witnesses, but observers eager to share whispers of infamous deals across tavern tables and social gatherings, casting a sly light on the finer points of legal barter. Even amid the weight of restitution lay an understanding of societal and community healing. The settlements, although emotional, presented avenues for resolution that avoided further violence, allowing families to find closure and return to the rhythms of Roman life, framed not by forgotten grief, but by shared resolve within the broader humanity. This practice offers resonance with modern elements, where today's legal systems sometimes integrate reparative justice, focusing less on punishment and more on restitution and healing. The models of financial compensation and restorative approaches have roots stretching far back into the paths worn by Roman sandals, a whisper to contemporary society about balancing justice's lenses of fairness and reconciliatory pragmatism. As the echoes of blood and coin fade, our shared journey into the nuances of Roman justice draws nearer to its twilight. From the shadows where restitution and life intertwined, we now step forward into reflection towards the legacy of Roman justice itself, surveying the threads that have woven their way through the tapestry of legal advancement throughout history. Let's embrace the calm and quiet wisdom that awaits as we prepare to discern the timeless influences of Rome's intricate laws, etched beyond time and preserved within the corridors of our governance today. As the echoes of blood taxes gently disperse, we find ourselves stepping into a grand and reflective tableau. The legacy of Roman justice, a sophisticated tapestry woven through centuries of jurisprudence that continues to influence modern legal systems. Here, amidst the solemn ruins and vibrant vestiges of the past, we pause to appreciate the enduring footprint left by Rome's intricate dance of laws, discipline, and societal fabrications. Imagine yourself standing within the Colosseum's shadow, a monument not merely to entertainment, but to Rome's belief in the rule of law, the arena where justice and societal norms often harmonized through pageantry and punishment. Despite the complexity and severity woven into Roman legal practices, their framework provided a blueprint that resonates throughout history, leaving imprints on every pillar of contemporary judicial systems. The 12 Tables, as you recall from earlier chronicles, served as an early testament to the importance of written laws, ensuring transparency and accessibility to all citizens. These foundational laws taught the world about the benefits of codification, serving as a precursor to the legal codes embraced globally today, from civil codes in continental Europe to legal doctrines practiced in many countries. In reflecting upon the significance of Roman law, one appreciates its exploration of both public and private legal matters, covering property rights, contract arrangements, and familial obligations. Imagine the forums buzzing with debates and lively discussions as citizens, senators, and scholars engaged in the art of rhetoric to sharpen legal precedents. Rome laid the groundwork for civic engagement, an enduring legacy fostering debate and discussion as a vital element of jurisprudence. Historians often highlight Roman innovations in setting up judiciary systems, yet they concurrently ponder whether Roman justice leaned too heavily on status distinctions, permitting inequities that persist in discussions of laws and social fairness today. This reflective dialogue continues to shape legal reform endeavours, encouraging a continuous extension towards equality and justice. Further intertwined are the stories of Roman flexibility and adaptability. Imagine how their legal acumen reached the farthest corners of the empire, adapting local customs into imperial frameworks, a foresight in acknowledging diversity while maintaining unity. This adaptability ensured that Roman law, rather than imposing, embraced and transformed, a precursor to the international legal standards aiming for cooperation and harmonization among nations today. Humour, of course, found its way into this storied legacy, as every jurisdiction saw tales of crafty citizens weaving their own tales of legal circumvention or inventive interpretation, a light-hearted reminder of the human willingness to occasionally outwit even the most structured systems. Through this rich tapestry, Rome has taught us that legal systems are not static, but living entities, evolving with society's progress. Each law, encoded upon stone or parchment, leaves its spectral influence in legal discourse, echoing through courtrooms far beyond Rome's temporal reach. As you stand at the precipice of Roman justice, consider its remarkable impact on the codification of laws. The emphasis on citizen engagement, and the persistent striving for balance between order and liberty. These contributions have shaped the modern legal landscape, where echoes of Roman decrees still find resonance amid today's policies and governance frameworks. From these reflective heights, our narrative gently cascades towards a close. Soon, a quieter chapter awaits, an invitation to slow time's passage and ease into restful contemplations on history's reverberations. Allow the stories to draw to a soothing conclusion, the legacy of Roman justice leaning softly as it fades beyond the echoing halls of antiquity. The journey through the corridors of Roman punishment, law, and legacy has revealed textures of a civilization marked by breathtaking ambition and intricate endeavors, a complex mosaic of power, law, and humanity. Yet as we transition into the wind down, let us carry these tales with a sense of peace and understanding, embracing the subtle choreography of past and present, before resting gently into the realms of dreams. As we gently arrive at the final turn of our journey, let us embrace the quietude of reflection, where the echoes of Roman prowess and punishment have left their indelible mark across history's vast canvas. Now, as the shadows of the ancient world cascade softly into the present, we allow thoughts to meander leisurely through the lessons, inquisitions, and narratives unlocked during our exploration of Roman justice, slowly unwind from the intricate dance of laws that have guided civilizations through the ages. Consider how Rome's legal framework, deftly interwoven with notions of fairness, societal balance, and occasionally peculiar whimsy, continually whispers its influences through modern corridors of governance. Its tensions between equestrian equality and clear hierarchical delineations mirror reflections across time, gently nudging us to remain vigilant and contemplative of contemporary societal dynamics. The stories of punishment, crafted sometimes with the precision of military discipline or woven into the fantastical fabric of laborious endeavours, exhibited Rome's penchant for wrapping human behaviour in the rigid armour of authority. These tales remind us that the pursuit of justice often straddles the delicate realm between tradition and innovation, between tangible retribution and abstract reconciliation. Recall the melodies of laughter threading amid serious disputes, a hallmark of Roman society, where humour tempered the rigidity of laws, revealing an intrinsic understanding of humanity's multifaceted nature. Through this, we learn that justice need not be humorless nor rigid. Rather, it pulsates with the wit and resilience found within the very people it governs. With each tale unfurling against the backdrop of Roman streets and senate halls, it becomes evident that the legacies of Roman justice are not relics of the past, but living testaments, flowing seamlessly into our current judicial streams. As you drift towards rest, allow these narratives to wrap you in assurances. The stories of Roman law have long transcended their origin, lighting countless pathways where fairness and justice remain delicate but enduring beacons. Now, as you prepare to ease into the embrace of tranquility, imagine the ancient whispers fading gently, as history itself tenderly tucks you into a cocoon spun of timeless inspiration. Feel the world grow softer around you, voices of long-past echoes transformed into a tender lullaby. Let your mind, warmed by the exploration of these narratives, find solace and peace in the twilight of reflection. May the comfort of these tales grant you respite into a night filled with serene dreams, populated by ancient wisdom, knowing that as dusk envelops today, dawn is steadily painted with the legacy of understanding left behind by civilizations past. Greater than, end of script. Sweet dreams.